For the third year and counting, Richard Skipper has been celebrating the artists you love.
And what are some of the things that you've really
run out of time, and we've got to talk about your latest. I want to go back a little bit, first of all, and celebrate a true legend.
Richard Skipper is all about celebrating life, art, and his guest body of work.
And did you pursue performing opportunities while you were in high school?
Please join us while he showcases these diverse and talented individuals. Here's Richard Skipper.
Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Richard Skipper Celebrates. Who or what are you celebrating today? I'm celebrating Lorna Luft, who I'm going to see tonight. I had the great privilege of interviewing her last night. I hope you all saw it. It's available on demand on my YouTube channel, which you're on right now, watching this show. I'd also like to celebrate Wayne Scott Lucas. He was here a few weeks ago. And because of that show, Debra Danielsen came into my life. And, you know, sometimes some people come into your life and you feel like you've met a new friend. Well, that's how I feel about Deborah. And I hope she feels the same way about me. We met virtually or over the phone on Sunday. And I'm going to actually do this so we can see a little bit more of each other. So we spoke on Sunday, and it was like I was talking to an old friend. And she's been through a lot. A lot of you know about it because you've watched her in your homes. You've read a lot about it in the tabloids, a lot of it made up, I might add. And she's here today to tell her story. We're here to celebrate her today. So we're not here to talk about the gossip. We're here to celebrate. Today is National Crayon Day. So we're going to paint our own colors today. How about that, Deborah? You're muted, by the way, so you need to unmute yourself so we can get everything. And welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm awesome, and I'm so glad that to be here with you. And I feel the same way. I feel like we've known each other and that we're best friends. And I really am grateful that Wayne Scott Lucas decided to, introduce us to one another. So thank you, Wayne.
Talk about energy. I mean, let's start with Wayne, since we're going to be talking about all the things that we're celebrating today. How did you and Wayne meet? Let's start there.
Well, I was watching the Janet Jackson special, and I was just so taken that she was brave and she told her story and she took control of her story. And I wish more people would do that. But then she included people in her life that were important. And I was so impressed with Wayne and how he handled some very difficult situations in his life. I said, I have got to meet him. And so I went about finding out how to get a hold of him. And I told him, I said, I take so much heat about the way I dress. Can you help me? And he said, I can make you look wonderful. And I said, perfect. So he's been coaching me and he's been helping me to make better fashion and style decisions. And I just love that I can talk to him and he's a real person. He's very honest and he's very real.
Well, let's start there. Who is giving you heat for the way you dress? Because I believe that everybody should live their authentic selves. Mm-hmm. And if you want to dress a certain way, if it makes you happy, if it empowers you, why not? Obviously, the Wayne Scott Lucases, and there's only one Wayne Scott Lucas, but when someone like Wayne Scott Lucas comes along, he's going to embellish or to add the layers to make that even better. Mm-hmm. But why not be who you are? Who are those people that come along who say, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that? And why do you feel a need to go in another direction?
Well, here's the thing. I still am fierce about being who I am authentically. I'm fierce about people being First of all, if you're not in love with yourself, how do you expect anybody else to love you? So I was taking heat from social media. I've been taking meat from all kinds of heat from, being on TV. I don't feel old, and I'm not going to dress old. And I think that anybody who has self-love and cares about themselves, their dress should reflect the energy that they have inside. So I was getting all of this, oh, you're too old to have long hair. Oh my God, you're too old to wear that short dress. Oh, you better sit down in a rocking chair, Granny, and get out your knitting needles. No.
You and I are in the same age bracket, so I could, I am with you. So let's start there. But where do you live now?
I live in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay, now you are originally from, I want to make sure I get this right, Council Bluffs, Iowa?
Right.
Okay, so I come from a small town in South Carolina, Conway, South Carolina. So yeah. I know what it's like growing up in a small town. Yeah. Is Council Bluffs, Iowa, a small town?
It's about 80,000 people, so it's not small. It's probably what I would consider mid-size. But the Omaha Council Bluffs area is roughly, almost 1 million people. So it's a fair-sized city. And most everybody here embraces me, adores me, and is very, very kind to me. And all of my neighbors came out. We shot one of my music videos right out here in the street in front of my house during COVID because we wanted to keep fans motivated. So I made a rap called White Woman's Rap, and it's talking about empowerment to be yourself, empowerment, and realizing people work hard and they try hard every day, and you should be proud of that. So it was 100-degree heat when we were filming, and I have on a bodysuit that covers my nipples, and I have on black leather shorts, and I have on fishnet hose. And you cannot believe how many people slammed me, shared that video, about 165,000 people, I think. And they're like, you should not do that. What does your husband think? Well, my husband was sitting right there and watching everything. The neighbors were all out there. The whole fire department was out there, and everybody wanted to be in it.
Well, it always, I always wonder, who are these people?
Right.
When I got up this morning to begin my day, the very first email was a hate letter. And that's how I started my day. And if he's watching, he knows who he is. And it was someone slamming my interview with Lorna last night because I didn't ask personal questions about her family. Because that's not who I am. I'm not interested in the gossip. If you're interested in the gossip, read the tabloids, go there to do that. Right. That's not what I'm about. That's not, and he said, no one was interested in her talking about spring and everything. Her show is called The Joy of Spring. So that's where we began. So, but he slammed me for not going, and I responded to him. I said, first of all, who are you? I just, perhaps I should not have responded at all, but I did. I said, who are you? Because he began by saying, I want you to know, usually I love your interviews.
Well, that was nice, right?
Yes. But he said, this particular one, I didn't. But I wonder, who are these people who, number one, have the time to reach out to people to slam other people? Right. And right now, there is so much vitriol in the world and people. And I know that your mission is to try to make people to feel good, especially with what we've gone through in the last 2 years. And correct me if I'm wrong, Deborah, the world that you are living in, was thrust upon you.
Mhm.
I don't think that you pursued a career in the limelight. Am I
No,
right?
you're correct. Yes.
So, and we're going to get there in a moment. But when you were growing up in Council Bluffs,
Mhm.
what was the world or what was the life that you envisioned for yourself? Or how did you see your life unfolding as you were going to go about your life after high school and beyond?
Well, my both of my grandparents, I must say, encouraged me all the time. And to this day, I miss them. But they would always say, Deborah, you're so beautiful. You're smart. You should be on TV. You should be in the movies. You should do this. You should do that. Well, everybody had their opinion. And of course, being in Iowa, there was no internet. I mean, how was somebody poor in the state of Iowa ever going to make it to Hollywood, ever going to make it to New York City? I mean, that was like, I might as well be trying to go to the moon because
Yes.
it was so far away, right? So my idea was I was going to grow up and I was going to go to college. I was going to go to business school. And then I took a test in high school and they're going, oh my God, we're going to offer you a full ride 4-year scholarship in physics because you tested the highest of anybody on this physics exam. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And then I sat there and I had no counselor, right? Because we're a small town. And I thought to myself, well, what the hell would I do with a degree in physics? Because nobody was talking to me about that. And I love science. And just because of nepotism at AT&T, I ended up working at AT&T on, do you want to know my title? My title was assembler on the screw bench. Yeah.
Well, that's something that I don't even think I could do.
There you go. So I sat with a pneumatic screwdriver going zzz, 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 for 8 hours a day and sometimes overtime. And then I started going to college and I graduated from college, went and had a big career with AT&T. Alcatel-Lucent, was a global sales vice president.
Right.
And I helped build and launch the iPhone network. So I've had a wonderful career. And then, the world changed in a nanosecond. And it was like, oh, well, Lucent's going down. All these people were getting terminated. And so I said, well, I'm going to take an early retirement. So I did. And I'm serious, just less than a year later, all of this stuff came up with MTV. And then the rest, has been on MTV ever since 2009.
Well, can we talk? Do you want to go there? Do you want to talk about how that all happened and go there, or would you rather not?
Well, it's just about things that I think anybody can relate to in your family. I mean, everybody goes through stuff, right? It seems like you get up, the day seems normal. You're going through your normal routine, right? And then boom, my daughter breaks in and says, oh, Mom, I'm pregnant. I want to go get an abortion. And I'm like, what? And I was on a conference call and I just didn't appreciate that. So I had to stop and we had to have a talk about that. And long story short, Sophia, my granddaughter, was not aborted. She's 13 now. She is incredible and she's my mini me and I love her dearly.
Yes. So you were literally thrust into this world that you were not expecting anything at all.
No.
And I know when I spoke on Sunday, you told me that, first of all, you submitted yourself for this show. This was a new world of, and a lot of this stuff we're not going to go into because everyone can read about it.
Right.
But I want to talk about, because there's so many layers to you, Deborah, that I want to celebrate because I just find you so fascinating.
Thank you.
But I want to talk about the unreality of reality television because so many people have an idea of what reality television is. I was called in. I was sent a pitch for a reality television show a few years ago. But when they sent me the script for it, there were so many things that I was literally giving up in my life.
You do.
Now, are you able, because I don't know what the provisions are or not, with what you can talk about and what you can't talk about with MTV in terms of what you signed on or away at that point in your life?
At that point in my life, I had no clue that my world was about to explode, take a complete 180 from what I was used to, being able to go anywhere, anytime, and never had anybody like come up and talk to me, tell me what I should and shouldn't do. I had no clue, and neither did the network at that time, because this was the first show of its kind when they launched 16 and
Now,
Pregnant.
excuse me for interrupting for a moment, but if I can just back up for a moment, because everyone should know that the father of Sophia, you lost also in a horrible car accident.
Horrible car accident.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Farrah, your daughter, is a single mom.
Right.
And normally, you know, in a situation like this, the baby daddy would have been part of this.
Right.
But it was a unique situation in your case where you came on board as a mom and, you know, the grandmother, if you will, and a very young grandmother, and this young girl at 16 who was about to be thrust into a whole new world.
Right.
It's hard enough being a 16-year-old mom,
Right.
but to be thrust into a world in front of the world to see everything unfolding. You don't know show business.
Right.
You don't have agents, managers, anything.
Right.
And that's where you are.
And you're thrown a contract and you have to sign it because, you know, I tried to say, well, because I had read so much about Lucille Ball and all that she had gone through. And I thought, now there's a woman who was brilliant. She was bright. She was talented. She was beautiful. I mean, she was great at comedy. She did everything. But I remember reading how a lot of these people that I admired never got residuals at all. So the very first thing I did was I said, well, I want residuals. And I started going through the contract line by line and spitting out, because I'm a business person, right? Spitting out this, spitting out that. And you know what they said? If you want to do this show, then you'll do it this way. Otherwise, no. Now, we like your story. We think people will relate to your story. But no, we're not going to pay for this and that. So they got by with that on the 16 and Pregnant. But I remember the day my whole life changed. And I was in New York City. We had been filming for 14 hours in one day. And we came out. It was, I think, almost 10 o'clock at night. And there were all these limos lined up to take each one of us cast members. We were going to go to the hotel and then we were going to eat. And there were paparazzi everywhere. And I just said to my daughter, oh my God, what in the hell has happened? And that's when everything turned. I couldn't go to the grocery store for 10 years because I couldn't bear going to the checkout line and seeing the National Enquirer, In Touch, all of these magazines with my photo on it, and saying things that were not true. And it's really sad when you were a victim of domestic violence, but the thing got all spun around and now you are sounding like the perpetrator of domestic violence. And, you know, it's a sad thing that I know in many households, people have one relative in a household that can upset the whole apple cart, right? And everybody will be going along fine. And then that one person walks in the room and then it's like all mayhem breaks out. But, you know, most people in this country don't understand mental health. And so they want to act like it doesn't exist. They want to shove it under the rug instead of just saying full on, let's go treat this. Let's help you be the best you can be. And let's help you love yourself instead of hurting yourself, right? So it was that struggle I was going through with trying to help my daughter, my granddaughter. I was going through a divorce. My ex-husband was cheating on me for the 22nd time. And I'm like, okay, man, I can't handle this. So I guess it was a good thing I took early retirement. And I took a package that I was offered. And, you know, that part I don't regret whatsoever. And I'm glad that I went on the journey with my daughter to protect my granddaughter. But I got to tell you, the people who think that people on TV, oh, they've got it made. Oh, this, yeah. They just don't understand the pressure of Hollywood, and they don't understand the pressure of ratings.
Well, when you're going through all this, did you have any outside support? And what I mean by that, do you are you religious? Do you have a spiritual core, or do you have a therapist that's getting you through all this? Because I can't even imagine doing what I do is difficult. Getting an email such as the one that I got this morning, if I didn't have a strong constitution, something like that would crack me up, essentially. Because there are people out there who want to deal with that. And you mentioned earlier the contract. I have been in this business since I was 13 years old.
Wow.
I also, I went through 7 years of litigation fighting for the rights of a show, which I can't even talk about because of a non-disclosure agreement that I signed.
Right.
But there are all kinds of wolves in sheep clothing out there just waiting to pounce on you.
Right.
What got you through all this?
Well, my dad was still alive at that time, and I deeply and fervently trust God. I'm not and I want to be really, really clear about this. I'm not a religious fanatic. You know, I don't believe in this church and that church, and you know how people get all caught up in legalism and all that. I'm not that. But I do read the Bible. I do believe God loves each and every one of us. And I do believe we are his masterpiece. And I, when I was at my lowest point, would get my Bible out and I would read it and cry and pray and say, God, what in the world am I doing? I don't even know what's happening, right? And my dad was a quiet man, but he was so smart. And when he said something, it maybe took me 3 or 4 days to understand what he was saying to me. But he never steered me wrong. And if it wasn't for his love and his understanding of me, he knew me better than I knew my own self, I think. I don't think I could have made it through. But the other person that I would mention in my life that has been like the most miraculous thing that helped me mentally was Dr. Ish Major. That man, because I kept asking, why are people acting like this? What's going on? You know, I didn't realize I was going through gaslighting. I didn't realize that people were being cruel behind my back and setting me up and doing things that were just very inappropriate. And I knew MTV had ulterior motives, but I couldn't understand what was going on. I didn't know about mental illness, and I didn't know what I was looking at. And I didn't realize I married someone that had personality issues, etc. So Dr. Ish, and we were filming, and there was all kinds of disruption in the house, and there was a big fight that broke out. I was upstairs with Ocho Cinco, and we were doing our lie detector test. And we heard all this screaming and yelling. We were in the mansion up at Bel Air, and I could hear Farrah screaming clear across that mansion, as huge as it was. And I could hear Ocho Cinco's mom, Paula, screaming back at her. And I just looked at, so Ocho Cinco, Chad and I were walking down a big staircase together, and his mom was running like a gazelle. I swear to God, I've never seen any woman move so fast. She ran up and socked me and ran right between Chad and I. So a big deal broke out in the house. Police were called. All kinds of things went down. And I just stood there and I just was so sad and I was crying. And Dr. Ish came over and he held me and he whispered in my ear what the exact situation was. And in one sentence, he crystallized it, and it changed my whole life. And it gave me peace because I got the answer to my question, what was wrong? And so he told me, and there was no more secret. And then I knew that there was nothing more that I could physically do. It had to be professional people that would come in and that would help, right? But it doesn't help, as you know, Richard, when you get on your Instagram, your TikTok, or any social media, and people are going, oh, now we know the rest of the story. We know what's really going on with Farrah now. You know, okay, all right, have it your way, knock yourself out. But you know what? If mental illness or mental wellness in a family was that simple and straightforward, I would think everybody here would be well because they wouldn't want to live through that. Right?
Absolutely. You know, just this a few weeks ago, and you may have heard about it, a friend of mine, Barbara Gerstern, who is an 84-year-old music teacher here in New York, finished a rehearsal, walked out on the street, and a woman walked up behind her, called her a name, and knocked her to the street, and she died.
Oh, my word.
And, you know, and a lot of people, you know, of course, you know, it was a horrible, horrendous thing. And obviously this woman was mentally ill. And the woman needs help. She's going to go to prison, hopefully, and will serve time for what she did. She murdered my friend, essentially. But people don't understand you know, mental illness and the severity of what causes it. And a lot of people are so quick to judge without thinking of the underlying conditions or the background or something that brings a person to that point. So, and it's easy to see people, and I mean, even, you know, forgive me, I'm going to go there. But even what transpired the other night at the Oscars. We don't know the deep background of what is going on.
We don't. And you know, here's the thing. I will say one thing, and I'm not standing up for anybody.
I'm not standing up with anyone for anyone either. So let me start there.
What I'm going to say may seem a little weird, but you know, on one hand, I don't condone violence in any shape or form. But I do feel it's appropriate if you express yourself appropriately, especially at a formal function, you can actually say, hey, you know, don't offend my wife or don't offend my spouse or whatever. I think
he should never have put a hand on the other person.
No, never. And you know, I got to tell you, Chris Rock to me has always been such a dear person. And I don't think he would intentionally do something derogatory on purpose. But I also take offense to anybody talking about, listen, I don't care if it's a physical illness, a mental illness, you can't help that. And it's really hurtful to hear about it. And I really wish comedy in the United States of America would redo itself. I mean, Chris didn't do that in a vacuum. I mean, let's face it, people have been doing things like that a long time. But maybe what Chris did was bring it to a head, and maybe now we'll have a little bit more sensitivity when we have it.
Let's go there for a moment, and let's talk about what you bring up a very interesting point, and I want to go down a different path with you that I didn't think about today, but I'm gonna you're taking me down a different path. When I look at that situation, I think about most comedy. Elizabeth Taylor wrote a book called Elizabeth Takes Off, and it was all about her weight loss. And when she was going through that period, and she writes about this in her book, you can read the book, everyone. Joan Rivers made all these jokes about her weight and everything, and she talked about how cruel it was and how difficult it was for her. And she said after she lost the weight, Joan Rivers came up to her at a party and said, "Wow, you look great. You owe this to me." And she thought
that is disgusting.
It was a disgusting thing for her to say.
Yeah.
And to me, when you say something offensive to another person, to me, it's a form of bullying.
Yeah, it is.
I think that no matter how you sugarcoat it, it's bullying.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, because when I look at most reality television, I think that most reality television, and I'm going back to shows like Survivor, Project Runway, all of these cooking shows, it's all about one-upmanship. Someone's going to get kicked off the island. Someone's going to be made to feel that their cupcake is better than someone else's. It's all about one-upmanship, and someone's getting... What was the main point with MTV and 16 and Pregnant? What was their goal with that show?
Well, it's fascinating because the goal, the way it was pitched originally, was that they wanted to show the heartaches, hardships created on the teen for unwanted teen pregnancy, and then how it affected the family. So for that, their premise was, if we could show all of the bad side, this would cut down on unwanted teen pregnancy, which it did, documented 30% in the United States alone. Lauren Dahlgren was the creator of the show, and Liz Gately was the president over that. And it ended up that so many people thought that this show actually promoted the promiscuity of teens that she was called before a Senate subcommittee to appear and talk about it. The Economist magazine wrote a story about it and actually documented the profound effect globally that our TV show was having. I was proud of the fact that we were having a profound effect on the lowering of unwanted teen pregnancy, and more people were practicing with birth control. That part was good. But, it was like, people think that you're like a C-level celebrity, like you're the bottom of the barrel when you're on MTV and you're on reality TV. They don't understand that when you go on TV, it's not the roses and beautiful music that sells. It's the drama. It's let's be angry, let's scream, let's yell. And by the way, let's pick individuals that we know have mental wellness issues, and let's put them all together on a show, because my God, just think of the ratings we could get. And that's the truth of it. And the truth of it is that there are psychiatrists and psychologists that stand behind these shows and pick out certain people to be on them because they know what's going to happen.
Wow. That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Sad that you exploit people like that, don't you think?
Well, there was a show that lasted like a brief second, and it was called Forgive or Forget. Do you remember this show?
Mm-mm.
And and I am an actor, and I got a call from an agent one day, and she says, "Are you available to be an audience member at this show?" And I came into the city, and they were going to pay me $150 just to sit in the audience. And
Wow.
I thought that I was going to be an audience with, like, in the context of a show within a show.
Mhm.
And what it was that the show had an African American demographic. But what they wanted to show in the markets that they were trying to sell the show in, that
Mhm.
it had a white audience. And so that
Wow.
when the camera panned over the audience, you would see a white audience. And
Mhm.
so we were there, and I did not know this when I got there,
Mhm.
but these people that were on the show that day, it was the saddest stories. And these were people with there was a woman who had ruined her family's lives with her lies.
Yeah.
And I sat there, and I said to the agent, never send me out on something like this again.
Yeah.
It was just so uncomfortable, even sitting in that audience.
It is uncomfortable. And when you are a cast member and you're having to go through these things. I mean, so we would film reunion shows, and I would, of course, show up, and you never knew what kind of mayhem was going to break out, because they would plot and plan, and they would put out little innuendos, and then they would make false scenarios come up, and they would just happen. And then pretty soon, boom, somebody's beating on another person, or somebody's threatening. And I had to call a security guard. I had to say, look, so-and-so's coming after me, and I haven't even done anything, because somebody told them something that never even happened, And I'm like, yeah, I can't participate in this. And, I don't believe in physical violence. And so I'm just like, okay. So that's when we first started having security on set, was when I called for security. And then security had to be beefed up every time we filmed. Anywhere we filmed, we had at least a minimum of 3 security guards on set at all times.
Wow. A friend of mine was on Celebrity Apprentice with Donald Trump, and those shows were so scripted.
Oh, definitely.
They could not, of course, but she told me much later that she was one. I'm not going to say who it was, but a friend of mine who was very well known in the business. Those shows were so scripted. I have a photograph of me with Dionne Warwick. Because she was getting
beautiful.
Yes,
I love her.
She was getting an award, and I'm standing with her, and her phone rang, and I said, "Oh, that's Donald Trump to bring you back on the show," because I was with her the night after she was fired from the show. But I want to ask you, because we're going to run out of time, I want to talk about the work that you're doing on TikTok, because you are such a sensation on TikTok now, and this is a world that I know nothing about. And hopefully you're going to get me there. But I want to know I want to know how you got onto TikTok, and how you have taken off like by storm, and how everybody can follow you on TikTok. I've got here that you also are on YouTube, and I've got and one thing that I'm going to help you with is we have to customize your name on YouTube so that it's easier for people to find you.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
I'm going to help you with that.
Always open for help. Absolutely. And I'd love to collaborate. I love TikTok. I think TikTok is a wonderful way to share. Everybody has weird things that happen in the course of a day, and it may not be a big deal, but it's like a little thing. So like a couple of days ago, I went in to take a shower, and there was a bat hanging on the end of my shower wand.
Oh my God.
Like, oh my God, nobody's going to believe this. So I whip out my cell phone, and I think in 24 hours, I had like 20,000, 25,000 views just in 24 hours, just of that bat hanging from my shower head. But I need you. I think TikTok, to me, the brilliance of it is making a point very quickly. And it's almost like the quote of the day, right? It's your inspiration of the day. And I just think of it that way. So if you can capture something and share it with people, then they'll have a little something to laugh about or a little something to get them through the day. And that's what I'm trying to do on TikTok. And I'm trying to break the mold. I'm trying to say, first of all, I'm against ageism, racism, and sexism. I just hate isms. I think they suck.
I do
And
too.
so I'm up there rapping and talking about me and my life. And then people are telling me I'm too old. Hello? If you are blessed in this world, you will be old one day. Wow. Unless you don't plan on living too long. So it's just like, people need to get with it. And, the most interesting thing is I've taken a lot of women's studies courses, and I didn't think about it until I took those classes, how important it is for women to support other women, right? Well, the most attacks I get are from other women. I'm like,
isn't that bizarre?
Why?
Well, I want to ask you a question, because today is National Crayon Day.
Yeah.
And I asked you wrote a poem for today. Do you have the poem with you?
I did, and I wrote it just for you.
You wrote a poem just for us today. Is there any way that we could put this on TikTok?
I don't know. Can you record it?
We're going to take this and we'll put it on TikTok.
Okay. Or we can maybe shoot it separate.
We'll do it.
All right. So I know you wanted me to rap and sing, but I've been so busy. I didn't have time, but I did write this. And I have to wear my glasses because I don't have it memorized, but it's just kind of a fun little ditty about what I remember from when I first had Crayolas in kindergarten. Okay. Crayons break out the best in me, a color-filled world with possibilities. Remembering old school days in my box of 24, I marveled at my friends who flaunted even more. Freaky kids couldn't wait for art class to dine on paste. They enjoyed the shock and awe they saw in our face. Crayons will always be a tool to set our imaginations free. Dream big dreams of possibilities that don't just live in black and white. Dream those dreams that include every color in sight. Deborah D.
I love it. So when you went to your box of Crayola crayons, what was your favorite color that you would always pick first?
I loved red because my grandma's favorite color was red, and she had red carpet throughout her whole house.
So red was your favorite color?
Yeah.
So red. I just changed everything to red just for you.
I love it. And red connotates love and hearts. And so I always was drawn to red.
That's wonderful. Now, so we always come up with a word. And today, it's actually two words. And the word that I picked is future generations, because I'm very concerned about our future generations. And I want to ask you what your thoughts are about our future generations. A few years ago, I think it was Dan Rather who said that he felt that for the first time, and this is going back a few years, he said for the first time, he thinks that for the first time, we are leaving our planet in worse shape than any of our past generations have left for us. What are your thoughts about the way that we're leaving our legacy for future generations?
I'm very concerned. Of course, my granddaughter's 13. And I know right now, because there's been so much staying at home with the pandemic, a lot of these kids, young adults now, but they're afraid to communicate. They don't even know how to socially interact. And so they are more introverted, they're more withdrawn. They tend to suffer more from depression and anxiety. And I guess the socialization factor is such a lacking thing that I don't know how they're going to be able to cope with challenges and being innovative in solving ridiculous things like the war that's going on in the Ukraine, right? I mean, and I guess that they feel so uncertain. There's been a huge increase in teen suicide and suicide in general. And so I really have a passion to make people laugh, make people understand that you got to thank God for every day. And so that's what I've been trying to do on TikTok, is to try to make people laugh, give themselves a little break, but trying to help people embrace who they are and appreciate that they are enough and they are okay, and that there are people out there that care. So connect with people who care about you.
Well, God bless you for all the work that you're doing. So tell us a little bit about the book that you're going to give away. And you're going to autograph it specifically to the person who wins today. The word again is future generations. If you comment with future generations, hashtag, if you have a question for Deborah, we'll try to get to the question as well. Tell us a little bit about the book.
So there's a lot of scamming that goes on, catfishing, financial scams, you name it. There's scammers for every mode of operation anymore. My book is called Vapor, and it's about when I was scammed in 2013. And it talks about how I was scammed on Match.com, and it talks about how I was scammed out of $250,000, which I could not afford. And I don't know anybody who can afford that. So I wanted to do what I could do to help people, because I had learned right after this happened to me, I had learned that a young woman who was married, and I think she was all of 22 and just had a little baby, and her husband and her were saving money to buy a car and whatnot. Well, she had been scammed out of the $2,500 that she had saved, her and her husband, to buy this car, and they had the down payment. She was scammed out of the money, and so she killed herself.
Oh my God.
Over $2,500 scams. You know, and I know people are scamming older people on the phone. People are scamming people on the computers. And so the government, I think the White House put out a press release the other day warning businesses and individuals that if they have any kind of business or information up on the internet, that they need to take certain security precautions, because they're worried about the Russians attacking all of our businesses and so forth. So I would just say this book, I worked on it with some of the leading security experts in the world, and FBI, CIA, IC3, all of these. And so if you would like a quick read that would help you get your head glued on straight and question things that don't seem right, I would recommend the book.
Great. Now we've got two people who have entered, so keep entering. So as everyone who watches the show knows, I end the show with my tribute to James Lipton inside the Actors Studio. So I've got some random questions that I'm going to go with you. And the first question is, and I like this one because I consider you a new friend. What do you consider the most valuable qualities in a friend?
Loyalty, honesty, and caring. Empathy, probably.
Yes, absolutely. Who do you greatly admire in this? Well, I was going to say in this business, but I'm going to say, who do you greatly admire in this world right now, and why?
Well, I have to say my husband, Dr. David Mers.
And yesterday was Doctor's Day, so thank you for your what you do.
And I called him and I told him that, you were celebrating that, and he said, "That's wonderful," but I didn't even have time to go to have the lunch. I guess they were having a luncheon. But yeah, he's a infectious disease doctor, and he's been working in Portland, and he has, you know, so many people that he takes care of that, and I hear, you know, the stress and the strain that goes on with all the medical stuff, right? With the nurses, doctors, all of these people. And I just salute him for being so selfless and helping others. And he has a real heart. So if something's going on with somebody, he'll cry, and he'll even wake up in the middle of the night. I mean, he takes it very personally. And I just don't think a lot of people realize how doctors and their families are affected by something like a pandemic.
Wow. Everyone get vaccinated, wear your mask, especially now because there's a resurgence. It's very important. you talked earlier about spirituality. I'm a very spiritual person as well. What does reverence mean to you? I'm reading a wonderful book now by Brene Brown, which I recommend to everyone, called Atlas of the Heart. So great book, recommended. So what does reverence mean to you?
Well, to me, I hold that term very, very deep inside of me. And I guess for some people it would mean respect, but to me, it's not only a deep respect, but it's a total awe-struck, overwhelming feeling of appreciation and love. And I don't know, it's just huge to me because, you know, when you reverence God, right?
Mhm.
It's like you're communing and giving him everything because, you know, you couldn't be here without him, right? So
Absolutely.
to me, and I'm really, really bad at expressing myself with word definitions, but to me, it is a very deep thing. And I think it's a very personal thing, a reverence when you reverence someone. And to me, it's very spiritual.
Absolutely. Do you sometimes become unreasonably angry or upset and find it hard to calm down?
Yes, I do. And I'm really trying to work on my impatience. My attorney told me the other day, I told him, I said, I just can't do this. He goes, no, Deborah, you're a very bright woman. You can absolutely do it. What you can't do is stupidity.
Good for him. You have a very smart attorney there.
Yeah,
I
do.
love it. Are there certain behaviors of yours that you can't seem to shake?
I think the worst trait that I have is that, and I'm gradually pulling back from this, but I'm always trying to fix things, you know. If I see an injustice, if I see something going on, I'm trying to always fix it. And to me, it almost gets obsessive at times, right? So I get the feeling that maybe I shouldn't try to fix everything, but be more selective about what I should fix.
Okay. What is the worst example of betrayal that you have experienced in your career? Let's talk about the MTV career. And how did you get through it? And you don't have to give an example or mention a name or anything because I am about celebrating.
Right.
But I asked this question for those who may be going through a difficult time.
Yeah.
And how you got through it.
Yeah. Well, the good news is my ratings on one of the shows was the highest ratings in MTV history. The bad news was it was because I was falsely accused and arrested for domestic violence when I was the victim and not the one inflicting it.
Right.
And because I was smart enough to ask for a contractual bonus if ratings exceeded a certain threshold, that part was good. The part that was horrible is then, going to the grocery store, being on the front page of the tabloid, seeing a mugshot, being physically humiliated in class because I was going to school at the university and I was in a Black Studies program and the professor just assumed I was guilty and made a public display of it in class. I mean, so it's like, I would encourage people that have had things thrust upon them that are false and not real to try to rise above it. Try to set the record straight the best you can, but just realize you can't change everybody. And if you can't change somebody, they'll never be for you anyway. So don't waste your time on it. Just keep moving because God knows who you are and you need to know that you're his.
Amen. That's great. Do you think a lot of people know who you truly are?
No. No, they don't. I think a lot of people think that I'm some kind of airhead and I just sort of bumble along through life and I just sit around at the house.
They should see your resume. You have a very impressive resume. I love your resume.
Thank you. That's very sweet of you. And I think here's what I think, Richard, honestly, and I came out of the Bell Laboratories, some of the biggest inventions in the world. Okay. And I have met people that produce the car marker algorithms that run all the airlines and the flights and all that. Okay. These are all people I've known and met in my life. But guess what? Do you know who the smartest people are I've ever met in my life? The people who are in entertainment. You have to be fully functioning on all capabilities.
All cylinders. Absolutely.
Intelligence, emotions. You got to read the room. You got to understand how to do things at an appropriate time. To me, the most important people I've ever met are the people there in the entertainment who are communicating and helping the world to be a better place. To me, those are the people that really deserve the accolades and the celebration.
Wow, that's great. I have a daily calendar that I keep on my desk, and I pulled this from a couple of days ago, and I'm just going to read this, and then I want to get your thoughts. It says, "My heart longs for peace and cries out for justice."
Yeah.
Today's self-love action. How can I be a force of peace in the world today while also promoting justice? Yeah. How do you feel that you can be a force of peace in the world today while also promoting justice?
What a beautiful question. So this is one of my missions. I believe that God wants me to help encourage people. All right. So I have had so many people come to me and say, Deborah, how do you put up with all those hateful comments? How do you do it? And then we are so impressed because you are so positive and you are so kind when you respond back to these people. And I said, you know what? If we don't show them love and kindness, who will? How are they going to learn if you just meet anger with anger, hate with hate, right? You have to overcome that with good and positive encouragement, because let's face it, a lot of people that we run across, they don't ever have any positive encouragement.
That's true. Amen. Yeah. That's true. And this is my last question for you. What truly motivated you in the past 4 days?
Well, first of all, I was very excited to meet you. And I was very excited to be on this show. And I called Wayne and I told him, I said, I'm just so thrilled to network and to meet, you and Richard and some of these other folks. And I just think the energy of a positive relationship makes the world look a lot different than if we're always turning on the TV and it's always bad news. And all we see is poor Andy over there interviewing the housewives and they're just tearing each other apart. I just know that Andy would probably really like to do something where he could have a little bit more fun, and really share more positive, because he's a great personality with great energy. And I would just believe he would want that too. So I bring
him on this show. Come on, Andy. Come on this show.
There you go. We need Andy Cohen over here.
I want Andy on this show. So I am going to ask you one more question. If you could solve one world problem, what would it be?
I would help little children because they are the least of us. They have the smallest voice. And nobody really seems to care about them.
And that brings us to our phrase, future generations. Let's give away your book, and that is going to take us here. And we'll see who this is going to go to. 3 people that I love right here. It's Pam Stubbs.
Pam?
She shows up. Pam shows up at every show. And she wins and wins and wins. She's going to have a library full of shows for Richard Skipper Celebrates.
I love that.
So Pam, Jess, I will get her address to you after today's show. Don't go anywhere for a moment, Deborah. Thank you all for showing up. You can hear my dog barking in the background. I think my husband's coming home. We're going to see Lorna Luft tonight. Music, music, music. I'm so excited. Deborah, I am in love with you. I want you to know that.
I can't wait to come and meet you guys. I really, really want to do that.
And Wayne lives 10 minutes from me. So we are going to be meeting soon. So you got to get here.
Oh my gosh. We got to go out. We got to do something fun.
We're going to have fun when you get here.
We got to kick this pandemic out of here.
Yes. I want to thank everybody who showed up today. I always end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to YouTube, go to TikTok, Google Deborah and sign up for all of her social media pages. Follow her, celebrate her, be a part of her. What you can do, her book is available. Order the book, keep one for yourself and order one for a friend. Leave a comment here on YouTube. Let me know what you think of today's show and keep up with both of us. I also end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Go to your Facebook friends list after today's show. Deborah, I want you to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I want you to go to the fourth name that pops up, and I want you to reach out with a phone call. And this is what I want you to say, Deborah. Did you watch the show today? And if they say, what show? Well, Richard Skipper Celebrates. Mm-hmm. All of you. And then tell them about the show. And then get them here. But then let them know what they mean to you in your life. Because as my dear friend Sean Moniger says, we're all in this together, but we're not in the same boat. And I always say, if you're going to go out in a boat, make sure you bring a skipper along. Now, Deborah, I'm going to leave the screen and I'm going to give you the final word. Anything you want to say about anything that we talked about today that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish that we had, or just any final message that you want to put out to anyone who's watching right now. I just had so much fun with you, and you are welcome here anytime. Anytime you've got something to promote. I am serious. I'm going to help you with your channel on YouTube. We're going to turn it over to DebraDanielsen.com, and then you're going to get me on TikTok. We're going to make it all happen. So you've got the final word. You've got the final word, and I will see you soon, Deborah.
My final word is love. Share love and love other people, and you will get more love back than you ever expected.